Hello, rugby fans. I'm Joe Harrington, and I am back after Amelia set in for me last week on our Rugby Roundup podcast. With me, as always, is our man in the UK, Philip Benden. Man, what a week! Starting of the autumn, let's call it autumn rugby season because it's no longer called the Autumn Nations, it's called the Nation Series. But a lot of rugby this weekend, a lot of really great action, big old match there in Chicago. And Philip, that is where we have to start because you and I have talked an awful lot about the All Blacks and oh no, Scott Robertson, what's he doing with this team? They've I won't say underperformed, but they've underwhelmed under Scott. And then they go out and they beat the Irish in one of the most Irish cities there are in the United States, in Chicago. I know you're still recovering from that loss, Philip, but how surprised are you that it was a 26-13? It was that they, I won't say handedly beat them, but they beat them. There's a lot of red cards and yellow cards and oh god, the officiating. I mean, what is your hot take on this game?
Starting with my first hot take, great to have you back, Joe. I thought Amelia was going to replace both of us, so we're still here for one more week. So that's great. You did a good job. Yes, I'm going to be honest. I don't think either team were impressive at all. Was my big takeaway. Ireland led the match at 60 minutes. Really should have been further ahead, but errors kind of handling errors that we haven't really grown that used to with this Irish team kind of kicked in. There was a particular moment where Jack Crowley fed a beautiful ball to Jamie Osborne, who just dropped it. I don't know whether the pass was too hard or whether Osborne looked up. My inclination is that Osborne maybe looked ahead. And if Osborne had gone through and maybe not even scored, but got up to the 5 meter line, then Ireland got some points. I actually think Ireland closed out the match from that point. So that was a big turning point. The Tyg Byrne card, I know we need to get out on this. I mean, it was an absolute farce, an absolute joke of a red card. I mean, the fact that Bowden Barrett, the player who took the shot, came out immediately after and said, "I am going to defend Tyg in whatever discipline comes up," because there was nothing he could do. The guy is, what, 6'6". Okay, I know there'll be some people who think they're very clever saying he could have dropped down. He could not drop down. Barrett was not going to receive the ball. Barrett was in front of the ball, so he took a forward pass into Byrne. Byrne was looking out the back door as to where the ball was probably going to go, but Cam Roigard hit Bowden Barrett. The French referee, there is no doubt in my mind that the officials did not cost Ireland this match. Ireland cost themselves because the officials were equally poor for New Zealand. They were a disaster. We're trying to grow the game stateside, and you pick the most pedantic referee who does not have enough experience, and his TMO is a disaster. I'm going to get a lot of trouble for saying this, I'm sure, but I mean, his TMO is Ian Tempest, who, in the Women's Rugby World Cup just gone by, Ireland lost to France in a dramatic quarter-final match, and Aoife Wayford, the best Irish player on the pitch, got bitten by a French player, and the only person in the stadium who couldn't find that was the television match officials. So that probably says all you need to say. I don't want to go too much into it because I'm 100% in the camp that Ireland lost this match to an All Black team that had a far more effective bench, which I think is the key difference in this match. Wallace Sititi was phenomenal when he came on. Tamaiti Williams was brilliant. And actually, Williams was on the end of a pedantic referee call at a scrum that gave Ireland, I think it was a penalty, in and around the 58th, 60th minute, somewhere around that point, which shouldn't have been a penalty. It should have been a reset scrum. So I really think the match officials botched that fixture, but neither team played well. And actually, if I was looking at it, those two, obviously, in terms of the tier one sides, they were by far the least impressive. Maybe Australia alongside them with what happened at Twickenham, but Australia have a reason. I'm sure we'll get onto that a little bit later. I don't think the All Blacks are back. I don't think Ireland are back. I think my big concern as an Irish fan is that Andy Farrell's selections have been conservative for far too long. He has a specific group. It almost feels like it's harder to fall out of the Irish squad once you're in there than it is to get into it, which is a really worrying concern. And more importantly, the Irish tactical game is not on point. The sport has moved to where aerial dominance is key, and we are just not playing to that point at the moment. Jack Crowley, My boy Jack Crowley, one of my favorite players of all, at the moment. He had a couple of missed kicks miscued kicks that weren't there. But we have a winger in James Lowe who's been brilliant for Ireland, but does not have top end pace and is just past his best. We have so many players in Ireland, so many young, talented players who should have been in this squad. Don't worry about the world rankings. My hot take from this one is Ireland would have been at the same level with these young players if we had dropped the Deadwood players and they'd be getting experience. In fact, they might have even been better. There's about 10 to 12 players I can think off the top of my head who should have been in the squad that aren't. But I wasn't impressed with either side. I did think Artie Sevilla was very good though. Leading into
Well, the name of this segment I had was going to be All Blacks are All Back. And
that.
so, like, you were impressed. But here's what I will ask you mentally. What does it mean for the All Blacks and Scott Robertson to come out and beat Chicago or beat Ireland in Chicago? I mean, obviously they didn't play this match in Dublin. It would have been probably way different there, but it's not like they played him in New Zealand either. I mean, this is a neutral field. They go out and they capture this win, just from like a mental standpoint and confidence standpoint. This got to be pretty big for the All Blacks.
I think it's certainly a boost. I think Scott Robertson is a very clever coach. I don't know how suited he is to Test rugby, and I think a lot of Kiwis might feel that way too. I think he's better at the Super Rugby and club level because he's such a good culture builder and he can be with the players all the time. Whereas in Test windows, he hasn't yet hit that. So I think they'll take a bit of confidence, but they really look, they're going to be very clear in their mind. This Irish team was massively undercooked. We came into the match where Jack Conan hasn't played this season, for example. The pack as a whole had played 763 minutes. So when we got to the 1 hour mark, Ireland were out on their feet, and that's when New Zealand kicked on. Now, again, I'm taking the approach that I'm crediting the New Zealand bench for that reason more so than the Irish players being undercooked. But it's a key factor, you know. I think Scott Robertson and his coaching staff are realistic enough to know that this isn't the real Ireland team. In fact, this isn't even the Ireland team I would suggest you'll see play South Africa in the final week. So on current form, this All Blacks team aren't going to complete a Grand Slam. I'm very confident that England beat New Zealand this year, and actually, I think Scotland give New Zealand a really tough go. I just think Ireland and New Zealand at this point, if I was putting in a new world ranking based on what I've done, and I'm actually tracking that, so that'll be an article in itself at the end of this series on FloRugby. But I would say Ireland and New Zealand aren't really among the top three teams either of them, in my opinion. Just in my opinion, on what I've seen in recent times, I would have South Africa, France, and England ahead of them currently, with Scotland kind of in the mix with them. I'm
So,
worried about the All Blacks. I'm worried about the All Blacks, would be mine.
well, here's my thing. Like, if you're gonna do the culture uh, building, like, imagine if he was trying to do that with the Northern Hemisphere teams.
Hmm.
He has an advantage that's his strength with the Southern Hemisphere teams because that's a more linear season, right? I mean, your
Mhm.
international season, especially for when your team is made up of mostly Super Rugby players, you do get those access to those players a lot more than, say, Andy Farrell has for the Irish players. So yeah, I guess it is a little concerning, but also that gives Scott Robertson a little hope that he can build that atmosphere, right?
For sure, it certainly does. And I look, again, I think he's a phenomenal coach. And I'm not in the All Black camp, but I'm just looking at it from, say, performance analysis side of things, where you might have a coach like Joe Schmidt is phenomenal because what he does is he layers a detail in, right? So he puts in a base detail that every time a new player comes into the Wallabies, they know what they're going to do. Now, look, they didn't play well this weekend, but you can see that the All Blacks have a lot more talent than the Wallabies. And I can't definitively tell you what the All Blacks are trying to do under Scott Robertson, which is a real concern. You know, with Rassie Erasmus, the Boks start up front with their power game, and they've now layered on top of that with brilliant young attacking players across the back line. The All Blacks, I couldn't tell you exactly what the All Blacks are trying to do at any point at the moment. They've been so different from campaign to campaign. And I want, contrary to popular belief, as an Irish fan, it's a great rivalry between New Zealand and Ireland. And actually, is it really anymore? Because New Zealand have won 3 in a row. That, Ireland need to win the next one for it to stay a series. But I just don't get a good feeling from this All Black squad. And they've lost 2 coaches in 2 seasons. That does not happen in necessarily in healthy camps.
Well, I think also you got to remember, like, you look at Scott Robertson's record and you're saying, okay, that's really good. But you also have to remember, like, the New Zealand All Blacks is like the Alabama football of rugby. If you lose one match, you're on the hot seat. I mean, he went 10-4 in the first year, and that's the worst record in the history of the first year coach. So, obviously you got to adjust. The game is catching up around the world
Mm.
with the All Blacks. So, um,
Alabama is the perfect one because you look when Nick Saban left Alabama, right? So they're not the preeminent power anymore that they were when Saban was driving standards. Now, Ian Foster got a lot of undue hassle and hate pre World Cup, the last All Blacks coach, but he was the last one in that line of coaches from Sir Graham Henry to Steve Hansen to Ian Foster, and they have that culture. Robertson's coming in and he's trying to build his own culture. I just don't think it's working as of yet. Whereas Joe Schmidt is someone who goes in and builds a culture straight away. I have my own gripes about Farrell and Ireland. I think Farrell's a phenomenal coach, but I think he only selects from a select group of players. So, not to bring this back to Ireland, I think both of those coaches have a lot of issues going forward over the next 2 years.
well, let's
Fortunately, we're mid World Cup cycle, so that's good.
let's bring it back to Ireland. I don't have any concern for Ireland because
No.
that was really the first match of their international season.
Mm.
They hadn't played since the Six Nations. They hadn't played for Andy Farrell in a long time because he was with the British Irish Lions tour. So obviously they're going to
Mm.
have a different team when they played the Springboks. We all know it.
Mm.
And their goal is like, you know what, if they're losing matches like this, come like, February, March, then I'm concerned.
For sure.
Outside that, like, yeah, let's give Ireland a little grace there, but look, they got to play good against South Africa later.
For sure, and you know what, Joe? That there's a couple of underrated points here. The one thing I think that's possibly been underrated is the lack of Joe McCarthy in this squad. He's our biggest ball carrier. Edwin Adogbo has the potential to be that Munster's second row, but he got injured prior to this tour, despite being and he was named in the squad. And Brian Gleeson. I really would love to see Ireland moving back to a hybrid of what they are now and what they were in 2019 with the power game. Because when we scored that try against when Ireland scored that try against the All Blacks, it was Route One power game. Ireland had plenty of power athletes, and I think again Farrell is such an intelligent coach. He knows much more than I do on all of this, and this is just my theory. Ireland will need to revert to more of a power and kicking game. We have the perfect fly half to do that in Jack Crowley because he's ultra physical in defence. We have plenty of young talent. Hugh Gavin for me is going to be a big name. Jude Postlethwaite, those would be our new centres. So I'm just so frustrated
Well,
with what I
you
watched.
you say power and kicking game. Let's see. Which two nations have the best power and kicking game?
Yeah.
It's South Africa and France. So it's
There we
like,
go.
yeah, they need
And
to have
England are
that.
there too. England are right there too, in my opinion. So yeah.
Okay, so I do want to talk about England, but before we talk about England, I'm going to pose this. Is this going to be a Scottish winter?
I hope not. I don't know how many times you've been to Edinburgh, Glasgow. The weather's pretty dire every time I go up there, but I love seeing the Scots do well. I mean, I say that as an Irish fan, they do get on my nerves because they always talk themselves up prematurely, and I have a concern that they're doing that again. But let's get into it.
Okay, so like here's the thing. I There's a way to look at it. I'm from the United States. I am an American, and here's the thing. I don't have my level of concern for USA Rugby is low compared to how impressed I was with Scotland doing that without Finn, without Blair. That is like, to me, that was more about Scotland coming out and playing really well. I thought Scotland played really well with more of their I don't want to call it complete B team, but their secondary players this summer when they went on their Pacific tour. I thought they played really well. I watched all those matches. um
Absolutely.
so like I watched them live and I was like, hey, Scotland pretty good because I thought that they would struggle a little bit more. So they're coming off a pretty good summer, and then they play there, and man, they just walloped them in the early. I thought the last try in that match was a little less classy. Come on, Scotland, but I was less. about America because of the players that they did not have in that match, and more of just like, all right, maybe this is the chance for Finn Russell to actually win his Six Nations in a couple months. And you know what? What perfect time for me to decide that than this week. This is a really big rugby match for Scotland they have this week. I'm gonna hand it over to you because that was a lot. But man, I'm excited to see what Scotland can do after what I saw this past weekend.
Yeah, I love the positivity, Joe. My concern for Scotland is, yeah, if they're going to beat the All Blacks, now's the time to do it. They have to do it. This is the weakest All Black team we've seen for a long time that are disjointed as we went on to there. Will they do it? I don't know, because the problem for Scotland is they always look great when a game is open and flowing because they've just got incredible bowlers across the park, especially that back line. Even without Kinghorn and Russell, they've got some phenomenal athletes and finishers. And there were some really good young players in that Scottish team, as you say. It's less of a concern for the US, more about how well Scotland played. They played at a really good tempo. The problem for Scotland is, when you look at the Six Nations, they have to go to Dublin this year, right? And is my from memory, is it they're going to Dublin? I believe they are. But they have to go to Dublin this year, and I don't see them physically matching Ireland. I don't see them physically matching England or France. Now, I'm willing to be proven wrong, and I'd love to see it, not against Ireland, but the other two. I'd love to see it come through because Scotland have some great athletes. The problem for Scotland is when teams put it up to them physically in the forward pack in particular, that platform goes. In my opinion, Finn Russell is now the best fly half in the world. I can't think of anyone else. Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu. Okay, Sasha excluded. I think Finn Russell's right there. And if he gets any sort of a platform with that backline, watch out because they are going to shred teams. I am going to back the upset. I think Scotland can get really close to the All Blacks. I really do. And the All Blacks had a lot of injuries from that Chicago match. I don't know what that Soldier Field pitch is like, but there are a lot of injured players out of that match. Yeah.
Well, the, field conditions are a big storyline for the NFL here in the United States. We'll just put it that way. But looking at the Six Nations schedule, it's like, well, Scotland gets France at home in Muirfield, so that is really important. But you know, they get England at home, but yeah, they're definitely they're up against it with Ireland. But um, we're going to talk about the French side here in a little bit, but I would much rather play France on my home ground this year.
Oh,
Um,
100%. Yeah. You don't want rabid French fans at the Stade de France.
I'm interested to see what the team is going to be for this match. We didn't have Finn or Kinghorn in the last match. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him this week.
Yeah, they'll be back this week for sure. So again, just for confirmation for people who don't know watching this video, last week fell outside of the official World Rugby test window, and I know we'll get to England, Australia in a little bit, and it really affected that match. So basically, clubs were well within their rights to not release players for this one, and because Finn plays in the Premiership and Blair plays in the top 14, my understanding is that they were unavailable for that match. And irrespective, I think Gregor Townsend wanted to play younger players anyway and get a good look at his squad. So they will be back for this All Blacks match, no doubt.
Well, I'll ask you. You already said that they're gonna get close. So is that your pick? You think Scotland's gonna do it?
It's just so hard, right? Because they haven't, and in such a long time. Um, no, I think New Zealand lose just once, and I think it's to England. I don't think not to get too far ahead. I don't think Scotland does it now.
Well, here's my hot take on this match. All right, if you're just getting into rugby and you just got your FloRugby subscription, you're starting to watch it. You can't watch these matches on FloRugby, but if you want to check out like matches that'll get you excited, I think two of the best to watch are this weekend, and this is one of them because we're talking about two teams, with stars on it, good kicking games, and I think that's going to be a really fun match. We just talked about New Zealand kind of being a little more physical at times against Ireland, but that is a team that likes to run a lot. They have a lot of great athletes. I think Scotland's kind of the same way. I think that this is a good match for beginner fans for rugby to watch. And of course, like also, yeah, watch South Africa France like later. Like that's gonna be that's the match, right? I mean, it's like
That's the big one, and the French hate the South Africans after what they did to them at the Rugby World Cup. Was Cheslin Colby offside when he charged down Thomas Ramos? Is the biggest question. My gut feeling is he is, but we won't go into it too much on that one. But that's the big one. But like you said, Scotland, New Zealand, you've got the haka, you've got the bagpipes atop the stadium. You're going to have an electric atmosphere of Scottish fans who believe they can beat New Zealand. So what a cracker that's going
I'll
to
tell
be.
you what, if Peacock skips the anthems this week like they did last week in America, come on. What are
They
we
should
doing?
never have a test match again if they do that again,
Oh,
in my opinion. Yeah, but
we have a match in Muirfield against the United States, a country that loves their national anthem about as much as any country, and Peacock just skipped it. Look,
it's nonsense.
they show it. They've shown them during the Six Nations. I thought for sure they would show it. I was surprised that match was starting. Like the coverage was starting like right right at kickoff. Um, they didn't even show the anthems for the Ireland match, and they did have a pregame show. So,
Bizarre.
Philip, can England get to number one in the world rankings before the 2027 Rugby World Cup?
Ooh. Yes, they can. They certainly can for a few factors. One, France don't take their tours to the Southern Hemisphere seriously. So France, I think, are unlikely to get enough points to get to number one. My bet would be that South Africa stayed number one right to the World Cup. But could England beat South Africa? Why not? Of course they could. The talent in English rugby at the moment is just phenomenal. I mean, they've got so many young power athletes there. And I think that.
Oh, yep. Okay, all right, we're back.
We're back. Cool. Yes, no, I think England would be my short answer. I think my bet would be that South Africa stay there. But England have so many good young athletes and such phenomenal players coming through. One gripe I do have is I would much rather see Finn Smith being backed as the out and out number 10 instead of George Ford at this moment. I think he brings a lot more defensively, and the kicking games are on par. Marcus Smith, if you wanted to lean into an expansive game, would be the main man, but Steve Borthwick obviously doesn't see it that way at all.
Are they the favorite to win the Six Nations in a couple months?
Are they playing France away? They're playing France away this year, so I would think France are the favourites, having them at home. But I could with 100% certainty see this England team beating France away for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
can they sweep Ireland, Scotland, and Wales is probably a bigger question, and I think that's
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so at the moment. I think so. Scotland do love to play against them and somehow always upset them. So, or in recent years anyway.
Well, and like I said, I mean, what that match I believe is in. Got the schedule here.
I think it's at the Stade de France because I'm pretty sure that England beat Twickenham at France this year. So,
and
beat France.
Scotland plays England at Muirfield too. So I
Yeah,
mean, um,
yeah,
it's always tough, but yeah, just really impressed with England, mainly because
yeah,
when I started here at Flow, we were watching England rugby, and man, it was low times. That post Eddie Jones had just left, and like I don't think anybody believed in the coach, and I I don't think anyone started believing in him until this past Six Nations.
yeah. No, absolutely. And maybe I'm going to get myself in more trouble here, Joe. I don't know why. I don't believe that Borthwick is necessarily the best coach. I just think he has so much talent to pick from that it's almost impossible to stuff it up. So I'm
So
not
here's my
really.
question now:
Yeah.
if you added Scott Robertson, if you put Scott Robertson as the English coach, what happens?
I don't think Scott Robertson does any better. I think if you put Ronan O'Gara there, I think England are the best team in the world. Would be my
Well,
non-Munster Irish bias, of course. But
well, let me tell you,
yeah.
ChatGPT told me that Ronan O'Gara is the best rugby coach in the world. It kept telling me that when I was asking him questions. So,
Oh, I hope he's the future Ireland coach. I think he will be. I'd love to see him in Andy Farrell's. We can't keep going back to Ireland, but I'd love to see him, Andy Farrell,
yeah, I
change
want
the
to
coach.
see. I want to see him win a top 14 championship first.
Yeah. La Rochelle don't look that great so far this year, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, okay, not to go on a tangent, but we've talked about that a lot. Like, how long is Andy Farrell going to be at Ireland? Because you've brought it up a few times, and it seems like he would be one of the safest coaches out there, mainly because, yeah, they come up short in big moments a lot, but they win a lot of big matches under Andy.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this one. Sorry, Joe, on this, but Andy Farrell inherited a phenomenal team with Joe Schmidt that Joe Schmidt left him, and he took them to a whole new level, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. The real pressure is on him now. Can he rebuild Ireland? Because he hasn't had to do that yet. He has to now build from the ground up, and I believe he can. I certainly do, but I just think that Ireland feels stale to me in the playing group and the coaching group, and I would have. I quite like. I know we were talking about Scott Robertson getting rid of two coaches, which I don't think is right because he's so new into the job. I really would like Farrell to have a look at it. Paul O'Connell is one of my rugby icons, but the Irish lineout's been a disaster for 2 years. Simon Easterby has done a great job at times, but the defence is not good at the moment. And John Fogarty, the scrum's been a disaster too. So I think Farrell certainly can do it, but I think he needs new voices in there because I think it's all a bit too comfortable at the moment. And I think if he wants to stay post 27, I'm sure he could. But then you run the risk of not getting Ronan O'Gara in there, Ronan O'Gara is destined to be an Ireland coach at some point. But do you want to risk him going to coach France or England? You don't want to. So there's a lot to be said there. I wonder whether you could do it where you bring O'Gara in like Schmidt went with the World Cup for the All Blacks as like a senior advisor coach and do a lot of work there and then take over. But I don't know.
If you lost Andy, if Andy Farrell left Ireland, like,
Hmm.
there would be some countries lining up to try to hire him, right?
I think he'd go to England. I wonder if there's an itch there for him to coach England. He's one
There
of the
we go. We're
greatest.
already firing the England rugby coach all
There
over
we
again.
go. Yeah, I can. I just Borthwick doesn't inspire confidence. I think he's a really good technical coach, but I'm
We've
not going to go
gone
into it
from
too
can they get to number one to firing Steve again. I
much.
love it.
I just think the players are so good in England that I think any decent level coach would get the best out of them. Hot take, I think if you had Michael Cheika there with that England team, I think they'd be unstoppable. That's my hot take. Yeah, you want to get a coach, go get Cheika. But yeah.
All right. Okay. Wi-Fi issues were there. Okay. So, Philip, we were about to talk about some South Africa France rugby. Really excited about this match. My hair's all messed up. You can just tell that we had some technical difficulties.
I think it's the
Okay.
excitement of France, South Africa. It's just
Oh my
pulsing through you.
God.
Here we go.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna ask the question. Okay. We're sure Antoine Dupont not coming back this match. He's out, right? We're
Yeah,
sure.
my understanding is he's out till December. I just saw he re-signed with Toulouse till 2031, and I think he's targeting to come back in the Champions Cup. Yeah,
Okay, so he's out. You know why? Because he's waiting to make his return on FloRugby during the EPCR Champions Cup. That's the Investec Champions Cup, if we're being official here.
I'm
That's
so
my.
proud of
That's
you for getting that deal over the line, Joe. It took a lot of negotiation. I
my.
mean, there we go.
So okay, why, Philip, is this going to be the match of the year?
Yeah, I think you've got the two best teams in the world by a moderate distance at this stage. I think England are closing the gap quite quickly. I think you're going to have you've got two sides who can replace their whole team and still win matches. France sent a third string team to New Zealand over the summer, almost beat the All Blacks away from home with
Twice.
what twice exactly, Joe, twice. And that wasn't even their second string team. It was their third string team. Let's be very real about that. They have so much depth and they have so much quality. Now, copy, paste. South Africa have so much depth, have so much quality. They have the most exciting player in the world in Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu at the moment, pulling the strings at 10. He is, for me, when it's all said and done, if he keeps this trajectory, he will be the best player of all time, bar none. He's that talented. You've got a pack that can go to war with anyone. They played young Zachary Porthen, who was the former under-20s captain. He made his debut against Japan this weekend. He looks like a star in the making. You've got players like Peter Steph Dutoy, Ivan Etzebeth. It's going to be a clash of two titans, and I can't see it being decided by more than 3 points. It's going to be that tight. France want blood after being knocked out of their own World Cup. South Africa and New Zealand actually played the spoilers that weekend. They sent the two best fan bases in Ireland and France home, which meant the World Cup basically was dead after the quarterfinals, and you wouldn't have even known it was going on. So yeah, two teams who know how to win big. The two best sides in the world by a moderate distance at this stage, in my opinion.
How excited are you to see this South Africa lineup that they went to midway through the Rugby Championship
Mm.
play France?
Oh, I'm buzzing, Joe. You look at that back line. You think about both sides' back line, right? If we're just playing projection for France here, you're going to have Damien Penaud and Louis Bielbiere on each wing, right? They're going to face Cheslin Colby and Curtly Arendse in all likelihood. That's worth the admission alone if you get that. Rassi played Cheslin at fullback against Japan. I don't see him doing it against a side like France. So I think you have Arendse and Colby on the wings there with Ethan Hooker on the bench because he can play centre and wing. That's going to be incredible. You look at the fly halves, you've got Feinberg and Gomezulu coming up against Roman Intamak likely. That's a brilliant matchup. Fullbacks, I would assume Thomas Ramos again for France, and then the Bucks have so many good options there, even with injuries. So word is that Damien Willems is back, I believe, this week. So that's another box office match. In the pack, it's going to be so good. The clash is up there too. So yeah, I don't know if you can tell through the screen, Joe, but I'm actually quite excited about this match. Look, I know Ireland Japan is the big one, and it's on everybody's lips this weekend. But this second tier match is to be good.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to see like the crowd of all crowds, I mean, you can watch Top 14 every weekend on FloRugby, and you see the crowds there for those French clubs. Well, okay, multiply that by 1,000,000 because that's what this is going to be. This is going to be incredibly, like, just incredible atmosphere. Really excited to watch this match just for that alone. This is going to be a wild crowd watching, in my opinion, two best rugby teams in the world. And yeah, don't tell me about France's record this weekend. France might as well have won those games in New Zealand, in my opinion. But yeah, the crowd's going to be absolutely insane.
No doubt. And I know we're living in ifs and buts, but if France had sent their first team to New Zealand, they win all three tests, in my opinion.
Easily.
Easily. You look at what the Bucks did to New Zealand in that second test, and really they should have won that Eden Park test too. So, yeah, this is going to be a hell of a ding-dong battle between these two sides. I think and like you touched on before, Joe, if you're talking about the power game and the kicking game, these are the two best teams in the world at that too. So, yeah, gosh, I can't even separate the two at the moment, but it's going to be so tight.
All right, so I have to say this: like, we've got these really great matches, these marquee matches: South Africa, France, New Zealand, Scotland. This is going to be really fun to watch. England versus Fiji is going to be a fun match, although I don't have much hope for Fiji winning that match. Obviously, Japan, Ireland. But when I think of like what matches really matter, like the France, South Africa matters because the fan bases is fun. But in the grand scheme of things, like we talk about Rugby World Cup seeding, we talk about rankings, like I don't think it matters that much. This is a clear test pride match. When I think of matches that really matter in the big grand scheme of things, I think it's USA Georgia. And I know those aren't the big giant rugby countries, but you know what? The USA is hosting the Rugby World Cup in 2031. They made the World Cup this year. They didn't make it last year. They're coming off a tough match, sure, injuries, whatever. If they beat Georgia, this is a big match for seeding, for just where we think teams that can make the quarterfinals that are going to be the surprise, the Fiji of this World Cup. I mean, am I wrong? I think USA Georgia it's going to be streaming on FloRugby. So like you can say, well, Joe's just saying that because they're on FloRugby. I think that's a big match just for seeding and where we can grade these non-Six Nations, non-Sansar teams.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, Joe. And I think when you look at the micro detail of it, right, these are two nations that are at really interesting points in their rugby history. Georgia, for all intents and purposes, deserve to really push on towards the Six Nations. You know, they've beaten Wales in recent years, and you know, there's reasons why they're not in that. So let's park that for a second. The USA, Ireland have committed to going to the US for the next 6 years up to the World Cup each year for a match, and the Six Nations have already discussed that they're going to play matches over there. But the USA team needs to be very strong. And they're going to be better this week. It just, again, I haven't got confirmation from USA Rugby, but I'm assuming that they will have Jack Kiscaro, Tonga Coffey, and David Ayanu would be my assumption because this is now in the international window. That's their three best props by some way. Against Georgia, what do you need? You need a really good front row. Okay, the USA back row is phenomenal with the players that they've got there in terms of the work rate they get through and all of that side of things. So there are building blocks there, and I think we say it every time. So we're just big fans of Scott, and we know Scott Lawrence will be the guy to lead them on this. This match means a lot to both teams because, like you said, there's valuable ranking points. But more importantly, from a USA perspective, if you beat Georgia, whatever happened last week, that doesn't matter at all. But even getting close to Georgia is a good because this Georgia team's a really good side. I know that Ireland thumped them with a largely second stream team during the summer, but they're better than what they showed that day. They've got top 14 talent across the board, so this is a really good yardstick for the US. It's a step down from Scotland, and it's a team that are just slightly above them. If they can really push Georgia, this is a heck of a result.
Yeah, I think this will say a lot about USA Rugby if they play Georgia tough. If they win, it'll be a huge win. It'll be, I mean, we talked about this in the summer, and it was more talking about how bad Wales uh, was that Georgia could get into the top 10. Just having that conversation, the U.S. Winning this match would be big. I just think this is the most important international rugby match of the weekend, mainly because of what it could mean for both sides. Like I can tell you this that like South Africa and France are going to be in the top four come in the rankings come Rugby World Cup. That's a match just to show what those teams can do in the World Cup in a couple of years. This is a match I think that just is more important for the growth of the sport in those two countries.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know, there was talk from Georgia that they win the Rugby Europe Championship every year. It's like a fait accompli. Like it's
You
always
can
going to
watch that
happen.
on Flow Rugby.
Yeah, and that's also if you're a real rugby fan, that's a brilliant tournament to watch because you're getting a good idea of the teams who are going to fill out the rest of their Rugby World Cup. We all know what the Six Nations and Rugby Championship teams do. There is a lot of good work being done outside of those two windows. Spain are a brilliant side coming through. Portugal, I know this is a conversation for another day. Georgia, but those are great sides. So it's the same in the Pacific Nations series. There's a lot of exciting rugby nations developing. Georgia have been at the forefront of that, and how true this is or not, but I remember their coach Richard Cockrell said, if they don't get a promotion up to something like the Six Nations at some point, that funding could start being a bit more limited. The government's heavily invested in this project. Matches like this against the USA are very important in between, outside of that Rugby Europe Championship for Georgia too. This isn't just about being important for the US; it's very important for Georgia to show what they can do. And gosh, yeah, I mean, I think we're both very clearly passionate about USA Rugby and what it can do, and I really do bank on Scott in particular getting the Eagles to a point where they're very competitive in 2031. 27's already secured the qualification, having beaten Samoa. So there's a real chance for them to show great growth over the next 2 years, and it starts this weekend against Georgia in what will be a hostile environment against a team stacked with top 14 talent.
Yeah, I can't. And again, like forget about last week in Muirfield in Scotland. This was the match. This is the match of their fall campaign. And I with the injuries, with the players coming back, not really injuries, but the players coming back in the lineup for the U.S. Um, I have high expectations. That match is at 7 a.m. Eastern Time in the United States. Streaming on FloRugby. Uh, do not miss it. I think that this is going to be a really good match of two teams that really want it.
Hmm. I couldn't agree more, Joe. I think as we said, there's just so much on the line for both sides in this one, and it'll be a really contrasting match. You know what Georgia are going to want to do? They're going to want to get physical, so the US have to front up on that. That's where it's all going to start for them. If you are watching the US this week, and you're not too familiar with the Eagles, watch out for Paddy Ryan, the back row. The guy's phenomenal. He made 24 tackles against Scotland. He's a brilliant back rower. So there's plenty of talent there. So. Yeah, I'm gonna, it's a tough one. I'm sure we'll get to predictions in the end, so I'll hold off. But yeah, that's
Well,
yeah.
okay. Well, before we get to our team of the week, well, let's do some predictions. So, okay, here are we're just going to go it down real quick. Man, we didn't even talk about Munster beating Argentina's young team, but
Joe, my poor wife has heard about that about 20 times today, so I feel like I've already talked about it. But it was, yeah, no, that was a heck of a result. Actually, forgot to say it. Munster are actually the best team in the world currently, world number one. We've beaten Ireland this season. We've beaten Argentina. We've beaten South Africa
look,
last season.
if the Bristol Bears beat that same Argentina squad, it's a little bit less.
That doesn't matter as much, but Munster win. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, well, we're just going to go down time wise. So let's start it. All right, 7 a.m. this Saturday, Georgia, USA. Who's your pick?
I'm going to go Georgia, but I'm going to say the Eagles get quite close in this one, and they show a heck of a lot of improvement. And like you said, this is the match that really matters for them. I just think just because it's away and Georgia have a lot of power, I think it's going to be Georgia will have just a bit too much, but it'll be a tight match.
Beautiful, oh gracious skies. The USA is winning this match. That is my pick. The Eagles are gonna fly all over Georgia. There we go. I'm wearing my USA wrestling
Love it.
sweatshirt today. Like, look, there we go. That's my pick.
Speaking
Um,
of, sorry, go back to Daniel. He's a former USA wrestler, so that's where he gets the work rate from. So there you go.
Another match that's going to be on Flow. We don't have to pick this, but England A versus All Blacks 15. That's to be a fun match. The All Blacks 15 just played the Barbarians, won that match. I mean, hey, the future's looking bright for the All Blacks. But check out that match. That's on at 8:15 a.m. on Flow.
I think England take that one. My friend was at the All Blacks 15 versus Barbarians in Brentford, and he said it was great fun to go to. So that should be a good fun match.
All right. Let's see. Well, here we go. We talked about USA Georgia. I'm going to throw you a curveball. Romania Canada. That's on at noon. Um, I think Romania is probably taking that one from our friends from the land of maple syrup.
I'm going to back Canada in this one, Joe. Sorry, Joe. Just because they showed something in the Pacific Nations series, Romania a regular World Cup side, but I'm going to go with Canada in this one, just as an upset. Just as an upset.
All right. Okay. Autumn Nation series. Okay, here we go. 7:40 a.m. Ireland and Japan. Now, here's the thing. We're going to see this match a lot more in the upcoming format of the Nation Series. We're going
Mm-hmm.
to see, because Japan is going to be part of that Pacific Nations series with Fiji joining the Sanzar teams and the Rugby Championship team. So we're going to see this matchup a lot. I'd imagine Ireland's bouncing back and winning this match. That is my pick.
Yeah, I think Ireland by about 45, 50 points. I think Andy Farrell's going to make quite a few changes, and I think they're going to be absolutely livid that they let that one go against the All Blacks.
Interesting coaching matchup. Eddie Jones there.
Yeah, Eddie Jones. Eddie was out in force about a week ago saying, "What got Andy Farrell hired will get him fired." So let's see how well that goes in the post chat.
All right. Okay. Before we get to the big ones here, England, Fiji. That's at 12:40 Eastern in the United States. I mean, Fiji beat England in 2023 in that warm up to the Rugby World Cup. That was when I was talking about that's how far England has come. I
Mm.
remember watching that match and just being stunned. I think England's winning that one rather handedly, though.
Yeah,
I've
I
I've watched a lot of Fiji this summer, so
Yeah, no, Fiji are a serious outfit, but I think England just have too much for them at the moment. Like you said, that match before the World Cup, England were at a real low ebb, and Fiji were fizzing. They were doing so well. So yeah, I think England in that one.
All right,
But tighter than people think.
same time at 12:40 Eastern in the United States. Italy, Australia. I'm going Italy in this one. I know Joe Schmidt and the
Ooh.
Wallabies have it, but look, they played a really close match against Japan. They got, can I say, outclassed against England this past week. Italy's coming in. I think Italy's well coached. I've been watching a lot of Benetton and Zebre and the URC. Yeah, I'm going Italy in this match.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take on that. Again, just I know we didn't touch on it before, but we did a little bit. Australia were without Lenny Kitau, Tom Hooper, and Will Skelton because they couldn't be selected because that match was outside the international window, so they were missing last week, and they'll be back this week, is my understanding. So I think, oh gosh, Joe, you've just blown my mind on this. I'm going to go Australia. I'm going to stick to my guns, but it's going to be really tight. It's going to be really tight.
I
Yeah,
love the Wallabies, but I mean, look,
yeah.
this is one of the last matches that Joe Schmidt's going to be the coach there. But I think sometimes we sleep on Italy a little and how much growth that they have made over the last couple of years. You can watch the Netflix series yourself and learn about that squad. But yeah, I think Italy's good. I think that right now I won't say we're in a golden era of Italian rugby, but it's been better the last couple of years. So yeah.
Yeah, and they've got the best centre in the world in Tommaso Manacello, who's just phenomenal. They've got Ange Capuazzo, and then there's a young flyer who's playing for Northampton, a winger who scored a try every match. I think it's Tadaro is his surname. He's 19. I don't know if he's in the Italy squad, but they've got lots of talent coming through and lots of good players in the top 14. So yeah, actually, I could well see it. You might sway me here, Joe, by the end of the week. I'm not sure. Yeah.
All right, so before let's hop over to Sunday real quick. Wales is hosting Argentina in Principality Stadium. That's a fun match. I think Argentina gets the mojo back, and I think they win, but that's a big match for Wales.
Yeah, my upset pick this week is Wales, but I can see a world where Argentina win quite comfortably. But I think Wales are rebuilding now, and I think there's plenty of talent there.
All right, let's go back to Saturday. We'll start 10:10 Saturday morning. Scotland, the bagpipers are blowing. They're playing New Zealand. Who's your pick?
You almost had me in our preview, but I'm going to go All Blacks, and I'm going to go by about 5 points. It's going to be tight.
I I want to pick Scotland. I love
Come
the
on,
All
Joe.
Blacks. Do we know if all the Barretts are playing in this match?
Geordie and Scott are both out.
I'm going Finn Russell, Blair Kinghorn. They get it done then. There we
Love
go.
it.
That's my pick. Sorry, Artie. Artie Sevilla, one of my favorite players in all of rugby. Will Jordan is great. But look, I was so impressed with Scotland last week, and now they get their big guys back. And you know what? I'll say this: it'll be Finn Russell, as we say in the States, at the gun on a kick for the win.
You've been such a wild card this week, Joe. You can't put you in a box. There we go.
Okay, the biggest match, the match of the year, and it's funny because we all thought the match of the year was going to be Springboks All Blacks in Eden Park this summer. That was on Flow. You can watch it. The All Blacks now it looks like pulled off a massive upset in that match, given how well South Africa has played. We thought that was going to be the match of the year. So far, the match of the year is probably, in my opinion, South Africa, Australia to start the rugby championship. I think you can go back and watch some of those. I think it was the Scotland England match was really good in the Six Nations earlier this year. The match where Finn missed some kicks there. But I think Australia South Africa is the match of the year so far. Now here we are again, South Africa and France. You know who I'm picking. Les Blues, they're gonna win. That's my pick. We're gonna be talking about uh, how bad the All Blacks are, and yet like we're gonna find out that the All Blacks in the Autumn Nation series rank number one because South Africa loses to France. That's my pick. I think it'll be rather close. I also think France is winning the Six Nations in a couple months. Uh, yeah, I'm picking France. Did I lose
I'm
my
not.
American card in picking France? I think I'm safe.
You just put your hand here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be on the opposite side to you. I think the Springboks are coming in with so much momentum. That new side are lethal. I think they're gonna hurt the French once again with Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu playing out of his mind. I'm backing South Africa, and actually, I'm going to go against what I said earlier. I'm backing South Africa by 8 here. I think it's more than a score now. Just to get a little bit wild, this Bok team are just so good. It's going to be a great match, though. It's going to be a
Who's
great match.
who's the man of the match?
Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu.
Okay, I will say for France, I think Pinot gets a couple tries there. I think if they win, he's going to have a big game, and it's kind of in a weird place because his club team's not played very well so far. And okay, Philip, this past week of rugby, who's your team of the week?
Yeah, all right, Joe. Let's start from 1 to 15. I have gone with England's Finn Baxter at loosehead prop. Brought a really nasty edge. He looks like he's about 5 years old when you look at his face, but then you remember he's 130 kilos. He was phenomenal for England. Joining him in the front row was Jamie George, former England captain. The hooker is defying age at the moment, playing really well. My personal opinion is that Theo Dam, his teammate at Saracens, is a brilliant player and will take over at England at some point. Luke Cowan-Dickie played really well too off the bench. So Jamie George, my hooker. Tight head prop, maybe a little bit of sentimental sort of here, but he played so well on his debut. Zachary Portham from South Africa was just immense for the Box against a Japanese scrum that, they struggle power-wise, but they're very good technically, and he did really well. In my second row, I have Ollie Chessum from England, and I have Lua de Jager from South Africa as my pairing there. Both players were immense. Chessum just so physical around the park, and de Jager won, I think it was 11 lineouts, was really, really good. My back row, I'm so happy because I actually don't think I've ever got to put these two together. The best friends, Sia Khaleesi and Artie Sevilla, are my two flankers, and I've gone with Ben Earl, who was man of the match against the Wallabies for England, was just so good. Actually, not to go too much into the weeds, but I love what England are doing, where they're sending their back rows as kick chasers behind the wingers. So every time the ball comes down, they're ready to compete if they don't win it, or they've got enough pace to score if they need to. So I love what the England have done there. Shifting over to the backline, scrum half, Jamie Dobie from Scotland was just immense. One of the top try scorers. Scored a
Oof.
hat trick. Yeah, this season went over. This match against the US, I think he was about 127 meters or something made. It was really, really good. He's been so good for Glasgow for the last few years. He's capable of playing on the wing, so he's quite like the South African scrum half, Grant Williams, in that sense. Partnering him in the halfbacks, only one man, Sasha Feinberg Gomazulu. Another two Springbok tries against Japan.
The fact
Unplayable.
that you are just rolling that name out like it's his name is Adam Smith or something like that is just incredible.
Yeah,
I I will never try to pronounce that name because I will butcher it. I will just call him Sasha because he's great. But yes,
love it, love it. Playing on my two wings, I'm going to go with the wings and then the centres. I've got Curtly Arnsa, who was unbelievable, returning to the Springboks for the first time in a long time after injury. And he is going to go. I'll put him on my left wing. He's played so well, scored two tries, set up two more. Really impressive. And on the other wing, maybe a little bit of an underrated one, Harry Potter from Australia. Not just because of the name. I knew you were going to
look,
go there, Joe.
this okay. I'm watching that match, and the announcer, the play-by-play guy, is just scolding the analysts for making so many Harry Potter jokes. It was one of the highlights of my morning.
So good, so good.
Playing
Without
like
him,
he's wearing an invisibility cloak was probably the best.
that's good. Without him, the Wallabies wouldn't have scored, and I would guess they probably would have conceded at least three more tries had it not been for Harry Potter, who was really, really good. He's played for the Leicester Tigers, phenomenal player. In this, let's complete the back three. I've gone Freddie Stewart, maybe a bit of an unpopular call here. I thought he was really good at fullback for England. When you talk about kicking games and winning high balls, nobody in the world is better than Freddie Stewart at the moment. So, really good player there. My centres, I went with Ireland, Stuart McCloskey, who was the only Irish player I think came out with his reputation enhanced, he was just holding up the All Black defenders like they were like kids, and then just getting offloads. I think I'm really happy for him because even though he's in it, like he's 33, he's only played 21 tests for Ireland, despite being in camps for like 10 years. I think he's going to be Ireland's number 12 for the foreseeable future, unless they decide to move Jamie Osborne there. But I thought McCluskey was brilliant. Partnering him, Tommy Freeman from the Northampton Saints in England, so good at outside centre. I thought normally a winger, but I think he is England's outside centre going forward. Personally, I'd like to see him play with Ollie Lawrence because I think that's a really good combination. But I think Fraser Dingwall's a brilliant player too, and probably has a better kicking game than Lawrence, so that's why he's there and they're club mates. But yes, so that is my team of the week from the opening round of the Autumn Nation series. Thanks for indulging me, Joe.
Hey, you know what? We love rugby. We love watching rugby. We even love watching rugby when it's not even on Flow. We do have a lot of rugby this week on Flow Rugby. We get back with our full slate of club matches later this month. That includes November 29th, Munster, Stormers, Thomond Park. We're going to be having an Athletes Lounge style broadcast for that match. We will be obviously breaking down everything that happens in that match live. We'll also be previewing the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup that is coming up. So lots of things on Flow Rugby to watch, consume, and read about all of our international matches. Again, don't miss the slate this weekend. Philip, as always, thank you for joining me, and subscribe to Flow Rugby if you aren't already, and watch rugby this weekend because it's great.
Thanks, Joe. Great to have you back. The dynamic duo. There we go.